Hmm. I'm hoping that this goes a little bit. For some reason, my um recorder is kicking out after 10 or 11 minutes. Sometimes it goes longer. Hopefully, I fixed it so I can go on with this. A lot of y'all like the little short videos, and a lot of y'all be like, "Can you just say what the heck you got to say?" So whichever way it go, I'm just letting you know this is what's going on with my equipment right now. Don't got nobody here that can check it. I'm a one-person show. I wish I had some help out there. Anybody? Anyway, I'm so sorry. This is what Anonymous says. She says, "I'm so sorry you going through this. I went through it too." They said it took 3 years before I finally won sole custody. Once that happened, my ex completely lost interest in my daughter and faded out of her life. He just wanted to torture me. Get a good lawyer, document everything. This is the age of the father, in which everyone in the legal system, the country really, seems to assume children are better off with their fathers than their mothers, no matter what. But you can prove otherwise. Make sure you never say or write anything negative about him to or in front of your children or any of their caregivers. Don't make it difficult for him to see the children. I know you're trying to protect your children, um, but your children are going to have to spend time with your ex. In this country, even abusive fathers get time with their children. Your job is to look like you want them to have a good relationship with him, even if you don't, and try to make that happen. If you don't let him know how much all of this bothers you, he won't be entertained by it and will eventually stop and go away. To try to make him think you're happy he's spending time with the kids so you can get a break. So that's a good thing. He might start skipping visits if he thinks they're helping you. It's awful and scary when you're in the middle of this, but you can come out ahead. Wow. And that's interesting because a lot of guys just, or women too, use certain manipulation tactics to, with their children, and that's common, extremely common, and something that's just normal behavior. Like I said, in a lot of communities, it's normal behavior. It's normal behavior to beat and cuss out the mama or beat the mother up, and then use the child as a go in between to take a message to the mama. Go tell your mama I'm sorry. And now the kid is in the middle of it. The kid runs and go tells the dad, the mom, Mom, why you don't want to talk to dad? Dad said he's sorry. Why is the baby even in this? You see, that's crazy making. Okay. I see it done all the time. You know, being a mandated reporter in an environment when everybody is committing abuses is very difficult because your world becomes real small, and you try to educate people about, even though you was abused and you was raised in it, you'd be like, look, these are the state statutes. Now you can get arrested for this stuff, or this is a valid reason for CPS to be called, but they don't want to hear it. So a lot of times, you know, you have to constantly stay focused on what's best for the child, no matter what circumstance you're in. Um, Seeley, this article describes my mother exactly. I'm 55 years old and still have trouble trusting people in my own judgment. My mother made my whole family crazy, and the abuse ended with me. Corrine says, my mother was a narc, and though I don't think that I am, um, and though I don't think that I am, I do have to admit that when my child was young, I had some parenting behaviors that I learned from my mother. It took me a few years to recognize them. I needed her to be perfect in order to see myself as a good mother. Having left my career path For parenting, I needed to be graded, and she was my report card. Sick, I know. And I apologize to her still for it. She is tired of that, and we're very close. The decision to be close to me is hers. I do not force myself on her. That's my check value. Truth is, she was my first child, and I needed to do it right, or I'd be a failure. That is too much put on a toddler. She's so wonderful. I learned listener, to be a better listener, to see her for who she is, to encourage her to back down, to give her space, but I never know what the balance should look like. She's in therapy. She has anxiety. I wonder every day if I caused it. Um, I'd like to share something with you. Those are some of the fears I had because, it's like if we know then what we know now, a lot of us wouldn't even had kids because we realize emotionally we weren't ready. And that's a hard thing to admit. Doesn't mean that we love our children any less. I know it don't mean that for me. Um, and I've discussed this with my daughter. I think a lot of times I was hard on her. She says I wasn't. My daughter is 30. So she says that I wasn't as hard on her as I think, but there's some things I know that in myself I feel guilty about. So with that being said, um, I try to stay positive. I try to um, keep mental health information around so that if it's something that she feels that resonates in her spirit, she can feel free to ask me or either call some people that's on the literature that's laying around because I don't think I was perfect. And there is no perfect one out there. Um, and some of the things I might have thought I was doing for her best interest, and those are the things I still stand on, um, like making her participate in sports because I think it's good for your self esteem. Maybe I'll learn past that. But there are also things that I allowed her to have her own autonomy about things that I would never was allowed as a kid. In fact, I would have been beat down. And I know a lot of people when she was growing up would think that I was spoiling her. I was raising her in a way that she was going to be ungrateful and disrespectful. I don't feel any of that. No more than nobody else's kid. I never had a kid that tried to raise her hand to me, um, or his hand to me. I've never had a kid because out of all my discipline or whatever I try to do, even if I was kicking ass, I try to explain to you why I was kicking it. Because I believe in corporal punishment. Because I'd rather whoop my kids' ass than have the police out there in the environment that I live in whoop their ass. And so in my house, I have to go by a certain set of rules that is universal for my environment. Um, but I've done it in respect, you know. And when that was not honored, sometimes it took but one time. I can count the times on my one hand. I mean, honestly, that I've had to physically hit corporal punishment or hit or beat ass. I can count on one hand because that was a tool that I didn't want to use. It was always there at my discretion, but that you had to do something real egregious for me to get physical with you. Like, um, you know, I'm going to work and you got people in my house. See, there's certain things that were deal breakers. That was one of them. You know what I'm saying? I didn't play that. And a lot of us don't. That might be another culture's fantasy. We don't do that. And didn't do it. So, like I'm saying, there's some things I stand on. But then there's some things I know I could have done better. And I'm willing to take those um, tidbits. I'm willing to hear those things back. I'm open. I'm not a perfect person, and I think that I try to set up an environment, unlike how my mother set up with me. I try to set up an environment with my daughter that I have to listen. Okay, I try to explain to her that because I was older, that it means that there's a lot of communication that I can have with her now. Because I was older when I had her. Okay, so I was not a teenage mom, which makes a difference, in my opinion, because your maturity level have to be as such. Well, but that's a whole nother subject. Okay, we got Kim here. I'm sorry, Jackie, who says my mother is a narcissist. I grew up thinking I was the worst person on the earth, and I that I really can't stand her, but she wants a relationship with me. I don't know where to draw this line. I find it difficult to have a genuine loving relationship with her because I hate her. I only want to talk about surface stuff and don't want to know her to know anything about me and what I'm doing in my life. Wow, that's the kind of stuff they make you feel. Elizabeth says, I am currently trying to get out of a relationship with my daughter's father. After months of no help from lawyers or the courts, I finally got him out of the house. I'm frustrated because I know he will fight for access to his daughter, but I know it's more about punishing me than about having a relationship with her. How can we co parent in a healthy manner when he isn't a healthy individual? This was an anonymous comment that somebody sent me. Pretend that you're happy, and they were responding to this particular question, comment. They were saying, pretend you're happy. He's spending some time with her. If he sees it doesn't bother you, he may fade out of the picture. Because mine certainly did. It's talking about her narcissist or highly conflict, psychopath, sociopath, whatever label, star kiss, tuna chicken of the sea. Jeez. Okay, this is what a guy said, Alex. Alex said, I have a friend that recently divorced from his narcissistic wife. He currently has custody of the two girls. However, he is still trying to recover from the trauma and constantly fails in attempts to return to her. I'm sorry, listen to him now. I have a friend that recently divorced from his narcissistic wife. He currently has custody of their two girls. However, he is still trying to recover from the trauma and constantly fails and attempts to return to her. You see the crazy making? Since they have children together, no contact will not be able to be done completely. What advice can you give on that? Or what articles can you show me too on that subject? I sure like Dr. Tara, Dr. T, Tara for Palmatier, uh, Shrink for Men, but it doesn't matter. You know, she's got some real good information, and she calls a lot of shit out like she sees it, and that's real important. Okay, that's real important. Now, this is what Karen said. Karen said, "What a powerful article. Identify with all of it. Too much. I had to read it twice. My narcissistic parents constantly gave or took away their love based on how I performed. It was devastating, and it has continued on. I was always told, you don't love us, or how could you do that to us? Anytime I messed up in any way, I was expected to be perfect, to have zero flaws, to question nothing, and my feelings I had was coldly denied. It has taken me to the age of 54 to realize what has happened to me and would be continuing if I hadn't walked away. Thank you. This article was a lifesaver. You know, this is important because a lot of people, when they get in their 50s, is when you start having a period of reflection. It starts becoming more and more and more when you start questioning the universe. You know, why is this? Why am I feeling like this? Because everybody ain't experiencing that. And everybody ain't feeling that way. And you begin to wonder, what the hell is wrong with me? What the hell is wrong with me? I'm not understanding this.